Scam Man Productions.
The world's economy runs on energy. Americans depend on it every day.
There is a tremendous amount of disinformation that goes out to the public on the factual, indisputable technicalities of oil and gas.
More of you have cars you can't afford to drive.
Single women around this country are having to make a decision between a gallon of gas or a gallon of milk. This is unacceptable.
And lastly, and with 3% of the reserves entirely in this nation, is it possible, do you believe that we can actually drill our way to energy independence?
You know, conservation is a fine personal virtue, but it's no basis for energy policy.
The American people have had a few days to consider the president's call to lift the ban on offshore oil drilling.
The distinction between us and them.
I get it now. I get it.
And what's one of the worst things that could happen to our nation? Somebody smuggles a nuclear weapon into the country. And God forbid it explodes.
They are either fooling themselves or they're trying to fool you.
Well, let me tell you why I left the Democratic Party.
I'm here tonight as a proud Democrat.
Rock on.
In 10 years, we will eliminate the need for oil from the entire Middle East and Venezuela. In 10 years' time. 10 years is how long it's going to take.
How's he going to do that? Is he serious? He's serious. No way. 3 million barrels a day?
There is a tremendous amount of disinformation that goes out to the public on the factual, indisputable technicalities of oil and gas, and that to the extent that people feel the need to fulfill what they think their constituencies want to hear, and they go on CNN and tell the public something that is factually incorrect, that makes the work of everybody on this panel 10 times harder, because we have to spend a tremendous amount of time publishing documents that put out factual things about what car technology is available, about how many lands are available for drilling.
You can make people do anything if they're afraid.
And how do you make them afraid?
Well, you make them afraid by creating an aura of endless threat.
Endless threat? What's he talking about?
Nothing's more important than us no longer borrowing $700 billion or more from China and sending it to Saudi Arabia. It's mortgaging our children's future.
What?
Money borrowed from the Chinese to buy oil from the Saudis.
What?
We are going to have to deal with energy because we can't keep on borrowing from the Chinese and sending money to Saudi Arabia. we are mortgaging our children's future. We've got to have a different energy plan. We've got to invest.
Do you know what he's talking about? Treasury securities? I want to know. Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi.
So we have a golden opportunity. And I thank our drill-only folks for focusing on the distinction between us and them.
Us and them, the drill-only crowd. Here's another lie by a hypocritical Democrat, and this is another reason why I left the Democratic Party and joined Al-Qaeda. Drill only? Drill only? Why does she have to lie about that? Robert F. Kennedy is a liar also. Listen, watch.
The oil that they develop in Alaska doesn't come here, it goes to Asia.
No, these oil leases are in the United States. And that's
I know they're here, but you're not going to sell the oil here.
Oh,
you don't have to sell the oil here.
You tell him, Robert, you tell him.
Number two, any oil produced here should stay here. It's all being shipped from Alaska over to Japan.
That's not true.
Now, the people
That's
in
not
Alaska
what Kennedy
are doing
said.
real good. They're not paying any taxes on all this because the oil is being drilled there. At least that's what I understand. So how does that benefit all of us when we end up having this oil go on the world market?
It doesn't go into the world market. The Alaskan oil comes here. I think there was one time, many years ago, a few ships were traded. They don't do that anymore. It takes a presidential order to do that. It cannot be done unilaterally. All the oil that will be produced offshore will be for this country. It will go no place else. It will not be in the world market. It'll go to our refineries right on shore.
Who's telling the truth? Here's another classic example. Robert F. Kennedy said that all the oil in Alaska goes to Asia. Well, he was lying. So I emailed him at the National Resource Defense Council, and he emailed me back saying that he never said that. He doesn't remember saying that, but you know how it goes. Yep, so Robert F. Kennedy says it. Then the people write in editorials to the Post Standard, and yep, there it is right there. Oh yeah, all the oil, you can't guarantee it's going to stay here, and we're not going to become energy independent if we ship our oil far away. It's one editorial writer, and oh, here comes the other editorial writer. Oh, look at him. Oh, what's that say? Oh, we wouldn't, if we would stop shipping our oil overseas, maybe we wouldn't have the troubles that we're having. And you'd think the Post Standard's editorial staff would be aware of this and wouldn't print these letters that contaminate the voting class. Now here's my editorial that I sent in to the Post Standard, telling them that what those two gentlemen talked about was inaccurate. So you'd think they would at least print the truth to tell people that oil does not leave this country. In fact, we import oil from China. China?
Into the global marketplace. They drill in Alaska, it goes to China. So to add insult to injury, we don't even know where the oil will be going. But here's what we do know. Shipments outside this country were 1.8 million barrels a day.
Once again, she tries to mislead people. She makes it sound as if it's oil. It's finished petroleum products from oil. Thank you.
Overall, in the first 4 months of this year, the shipments of American oil outside this country, drilling here, goes somewhere else in the world.
The U.S. exports only small amounts of petroleum and petroleum products, most of it going to Canada. Why would she mislead Democrats? Why? Overload, why lie?
Today we're going to be talking about Hillary Clinton. Now, you'll see in this clip here,
Brazil decided they were going to see what they had at home that they could turn into energy. That's why they used sugarcane.
so here's her ethanol, here's her oil production, here's her oil consumption. So when you talk about Brazil, you have to talk about that they are drilling. Oh, it says growth is outpacing fuel supplies in Brazil, Chile, and Argentina. Then up here it says what? Energy crunch threatens South America. As you can see, through the Clinton years, 1990, zoom in, okay?
He's stupid. Clinton was in 92.
Now when Clinton left office in 2000, and here's Bush.
That's ridiculous. I'm not going to believe this.
So you can see that ethanol production under George Bush went up, and Clinton did absolutely nothing.
More high gas prices and less alternative energy.
Clinton promised energy independence in '92.
Brazil will not need any imported oil, not because of ethanol or sugarcane, but because of the vast offshore reserves it has begun to tap.
I didn't know that.
When I was a kid, sugarcane was everywhere. Today, it is nowhere. Yet in Brazil, 80% of their industry, of their energy, is coming from sugarcane. This Congress recognizes that in order for us to get to...
You see what I was saying? We got to copy Brazil. That means we have to drill.
Producing enough ethanol from switchgrass to displace 1 million barrels of oil per day would require 25 million acres of land. That's the size of Kentucky or larger.
Remember.
There is a tremendous amount of disinformation that goes out to the public.
Remember.
We had 5 times the field staff than ever before. We were spending $80 million in field organizing. We also gave $65 million directly to state parties so they could do what they wanted with it. Did you see the Dale Sweetland ad?
No.
You're going around wasting your footage filming this guy here, but you're not edifying the voting public at all. But you're going to sit and film this guy for your boss. That's what you're going to do, is film this guy for the Democrats, and you're learning absolutely nothing. Nothing. And this is what the Democrats do with their time.
Dale Sweetland has it backwards. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee is responsible for the
Sweetland's got it backwards.
Okay? Right here.
It's not funny.
Democrat ad, attacks Sweetland. Okay? Remember, we just saw What a Party with Terry McAuliffe giving the state $65 million to do as they want. Well, that's what they do with this money. Instead of educating you and me, okay, this is what they're doing. They're making me stupider.
I'm Dan Maffei, and I approve this message.
Why would the Democrats want to do that? Oh my God. That's them. The 2 spies that I met.
Okay, so how many gallons of alternatives are going to be produced like in 15, 20 years from now? Do you know? Do you know? You don't know.
Do you?
Yes, I do know. Excellent, excellent.
And now you know. 36 billion gallons.
Last year's energy bill required that 36 billion gallons of biofuels be produced annually by 2022. Of that, 21 billion gallons would be advanced biofuels that are still mostly in the experimental stage. Okay? There it is right there. Rethinking ethanol. Okay? You know, how can Dan Maffei not know this?
I get it now. I get it.
I'm Gasoline Joe. Last year, farmers grew about 11 billion bushels of corn. If you converted all this corn into ethanol, you'd have about 18 billion gallons of gasoline equivalent. That's your ethanol update. Thank you. This is Gasoline Joe. Bye-bye.
I like that guy. I like Gasoline Joe. No.
And remember, cellulosic ethanol is still in its experimental stage. So, bye-bye.
Ethanol. They're having trouble finding things for their animals to eat. And as you know, one of the articles in one of the newspapers in the last week or two was some of the pig farmers are feeding cookies and popcorn and stuff they can buy that's cheaper than corn because there's such a shortage of grains.
How many gallons of alternatives are going to be produced in 15, 20 years from now? Do you know? You don't know.
You?
I get it now. I get it.
I get it now. I get it now. You're going to get it. The United States uses about 5 million barrels of crude oil a day. We get from Texas, Alaska, then California, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. Okay, the top producing states are Texas at 1 million, Alaska at 740,000, California at 600,000, Louisiana and Oklahoma around 200,000. Okay, and then of course offshore is about 1.5 million, and that equals about 5 million barrels a day. Okay, the top exporters are Saudi Arabia, Russia, Norway, Iran. You can see the numbers there. Now remember, Saudi Arabia exports about 10 million barrels a day. We only import about 1.5 million. So the whole world buys oil from Saudi Arabia. The United States is a small player with them. U.S. crude imports, as you can see here, is Canada with almost 2 million, then Mexico, about 1.5 million, and then Saudi Arabia, 1.5 million. And then you can see the numbers. And as we go down, you can see that while I was at Hillary Clinton's fundraiser, I told the lady that, we get more oil from Louisiana than we get from Kuwait. That's not true. That's not true. But Democrats are ignorant when it comes to oil policy. Oh, look, we even import oil from China. Nothing wrong with that. But I think we should start drilling in our own country. But my Democratic friends say to me, to my face, who the hell do you think you are? And I say, well, look at China's oil production and oil consumption. Everyone has their issues. So I think it's time, when you look at this report, U.S. oil production is going to continue to go down to 4.6. Okay? And then oil production in Alaska has gone from 2 million barrels down to 500,000 barrels, okay, by 2025. That's significant loss. Don't you think we should at least stay even? Plus, we could create more domestic jobs. And out of every barrel that we use, 20 gallons of gasoline comes from it. And each barrel of oil is about 42 gallons. Okay, and then, of course, there's record output for refineries this year, about 6 to 7 billion barrels. So now what do you think?
So I think I'll first talk about oil, very briefly. Now, Stephen Colbert once said that he doesn't like facts because facts have a well-known liberal bias. I like facts a lot. Every day, Americans use 21 million barrels of oil. We produce more than 8 million barrels of oil every day. We produce more than 8 million barrels of oil every day. And I am serving as an expert witness. Even if we drilled in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, even if we opened up all of the Atlantic and Pacific coast to oil drilling, we would still be importing more than half of our oil.
A meager 200,000 barrels a day. And that 200,000 barrels assume that drilling off the coasts of the Atlantic and Pacific is something that people will want to do. This particular chart shows you how much additional supply we will need. 2 million more barrels than what we are currently using.
While domestic demand is expected to grow from 21 million barrels per day to about 25 million barrels per day in 2030.
In 10 years, we will eliminate the need for oil from the entire Middle East and Venezuela. In 10 years' time.
not realistic.
The New York Times called it the big pander to big oil.
It says here in the New York Times, big pander to big oil, there's 90 billion barrels of recoverable oil believed to lie offshore.
Plundering our coast for about 19 billion barrels of oil.
There's 90 billion barrels of recoverable oil believed to lie offshore.
Democrats know how to do this. As I recall, we did it before with President Clinton and the Democrats. And if we do our part, we'll do it again with President Obama and the Democrats.
Do it again? What? Cut back on oil production more? That's not funny.
We've gone from 9 million barrels a day of production in this country to 5 million over the last 20 years.
It's meant to us and to the world, and what we need to do going
It's Terry
forward
McAuliffe.
to restore
He
the
ran the
moral
DNC.
authority of the United States of America across the world, because we are the greatest country in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest president in the history of the United States of America, our friend, William Jefferson Clinton.
I love you, Bill. I love you. I love you, Bill. You're the best. During the 1992 presidential race, Mr. Clinton and his intellectual friends insisted that they couldn't make America energy independent without drilling in Alaska, without drilling offshore, onshore, or anywhere. They could do this simply by using renewables and increasing efficiency standards. Mr. Clinton stated that he could bring us to energy independence. He could bring us to the promised land.
Thank you, President Clinton.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, President Clinton, thank you. While President Clinton was in office, SUV sales to Democrats went up, 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 and up. Democrats love the SUVs. Thank you, President Clinton, thank you.
Thank you, President Clinton.
Thank you, President Clinton. Thank you for voting against drilling in Alaska or anywhere else in the United States. Terry McAuliffe, where's the keys to the Navigator?
Thank you, President Clinton.
Thank you. There's 126 million cars. When Clinton left office, 137 million cars.
Thank you, President Clinton.
Thank you. Now every American understood how much damage terrorists could do to us at home and how right Mr. Clinton was to send those missiles overseas and kill all those people. Thank you, Mr. Clinton. Thank you for protecting our oil.
Thank you, President Clinton.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. Thank you, Mr. Clinton, for allowing oil production to go down, down, down.
Thank you, President Clinton.
And thank you, Mr. Clinton, thank you for allowing domestic oil production to go down, 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 while imports went up, up, up from 40% to 60%. Thank you.
Thank you, President Clinton.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clinton. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Clinton, you are the best president ever in the United States. Thank you. Oil production in America down. Oil production under President Clinton down. Oil production in 1992 down. Oil production in 1994 down. Oil production in 1996. Down. Down. Oil production in 1998. Down. oil production in the year 2000. Down. Oil production in 2001 was down. Down. Oil production in America is still down.
Drilling.
By drilling in special places like the Arctic Refuge.
Drilling.
We need to drill.
Drilling.
More and more drilling everywhere.
Drilling.
Why can't we drill?
Drilling.
Calls for more drilling.
Drilling.
Drilling there.
Drilling.
We can't drill.
Drilling.
Pennies from drilling in the Arctic Refuge.
Drilling.
Drilling.
Already open for drilling.
Drilling.
No amount of drilling.
Drilling.
Drill our way.
Drilling.
You want to drill, and drill?
Responsible drilling.
How about drill down in this blue area?
Drilling.
Enough about drilling. And drilling and drilling.
Drilling.
Drilling?
Drilling a hole someplace.
Drilling a hole someplace?
This is what the argument is about. This is what the argument is about. But opponents say any additional drilling in coastal waters prolongs the nation's oil dependency and delays wider use of alternative sources.
That's not true. It's bullshit. Democrats should just be buying smaller cars. Right, Al Gore? And now, Al Gore. 48,707,000 people voted for Al Gore in 2000. Did you vote for him?
Was it all just a dream?
God bless you, Florida. Thank you.
Did the last 4 years not really happen? Was it a dream?
Was it a dream? Or was I dreaming? 48 million people voted for Gore, but none of them bought a Geo Metro. Not even the people in Washington, D.C. bought a Geo Metro that got 40 miles to a gallon.
In writing and signed by a member of the House.
Was I dreaming?
The objection is in writing, and I don't care.
If I don't drive a Geo Metro.
The chair will advise that the rules do care.
I've been trying to tell this story for a long time, and I feel as if I've failed to get the message across.
I wonder why. I wonder why.
Why do you directly contradict yourself?
Why do you contradict yourself with a Cadillac?
If they force you to change a scientific conclusion, it's a form of science fraud by them.
Did they force you to drive that 2-ton, 300 horsepower Cadillac in Inconvenient Truth instead of a Geo Metro that got 40 miles to a gallon? That's a sign of political fraud. Oh, look, he could have bought a Geo Metro. Look at the mileage on that.
So it is up to us to look at how we think about it, because our way of thinking is the third and final factor that transforms our relationship to the earth.
Think so? Was I dreaming? 48 million people voted for Gore.
Was it all?
Not one of them drove a Geo Metro.
Bless you, Florida.
I guess it was a dream. No. No, don't. Don't. Stop. Don't electrocute me. No. Don't torture me. Just because I want to drill doesn't mean you have to hurt me. Don't. I'm a Democrat like you. Don't hurt me. Just because I want to drill doesn't mean you have to torture me. No. No, I won't change my mind. I'm not. I won't. I will.
But we should start by telling the oil companies to drill on the 68 million acres they currently have access to but haven't touched. And if they don't use it, they should lose it.
No, Mr. Obama. we should be telling the 68 million Democrats that they should start to use the small cars that they have available to them in order to cut back on global warming and gasoline consumption. You shouldn't lie about the 68 million acres. You shouldn't mislead people here. Why they are clapping when they are not driving a small fuel-efficient car is confusing to me, but that's what the Democrats do. Lie, lie, lie. Lie, lie, lie. Lie, lie, lie. Thank you. Truth, truth, truth. The Chevron Corporation used 80% of its leases. It surrendered many leases because there was no oil on them. And they already have a use it or lose it clause in their contract. So when politicians talk about the 68 million acres that are available, remember, there are 68 million small cars available for the Democrats to drive. But you don't see them buying and driving them, do you? Leases is a very serious issue. Why the Democrats extort it and exploit it and distort it is amazing to me. Thank you. Here's another article that was in the New York Times, losing patience with the Bush administration because they want to drill. The facts are here that they are being sued. The leases are being stopped. Why? Because the natural setting could be converted into an industrial setting, therefore creating severe adverse impacts to mule deer, elk, and antelope. These are protested leases. So when you talk about leases, think of how many are being protested because of the elk. Severe? Well, think about it. Losing patience. I wish they would write an editorial about losing patience with Democrats who don't want to drive small cars.
Stops the partisan bickering.
Like Dan Maffei. He's my congressman in Syracuse now.
A comprehensive plan to bring down energy costs.
He's going to bring them down.
New jobs,
green jobs.
Solar, and the huge tax breaks to big oil.
Huge tax breaks.
Higher fuel efficiency cars.
Demand. They're going to demand.
We have the technology to bring down energy costs. Let's change things in Washington and get the job done.
It's not the technology, Dan. It's the attitude. 17 years after the Gulf War, after 9/11, and you went out and bought a Bonneville with a spoiler and big lights on the back, and it gets 19 miles to a gallon? 18 barrels a year? You couldn't buy anything more fuel efficient? Dan Maffei!
Thanks for your letter.
I sent Dan Maffei a letter and a letter to the editor asking Dan Maffei to explain to me how we were going to become energy independent in 10 years. I wanted to see his petroleum numbers. I heard you criticize Sweetland for not doing something 6 years ago, right? Now, you know I'm the biggest liberal going in this part of the town, but I got to ask you this. 6 years ago, when you bought that Pontiac, why didn't you buy a Geo Metro that got 40 miles to a gallon instead of the Pontiac that you have now that gets 18 miles to a gallon? And isn't that a contradiction?
Excuse me, I'm going to have to ask you.
True that you were in an SUV last night and you were at the Mobile dealer filling it up?
Excuse me.
You weren't driving around in an SUV last night.
Sir.
Dan Maffei was not driving around in an SUV, Howie. How can you say that? Democrats do not drive SUVs. They care about the environment, Howie. You know it.
Dan Maffei drove up with his campaign aide to a Green Party meeting to persuade us not to run against him in a big SUV. It wasn't no Volvo.
Dan Maffei was driving an SUV?
I'm Dan Maffei, and I'm a liar. Dale Sweetland thinks more drilling and more giveaways to big oil is the solution. I'm Dan Maffei. I wrote that.
I want to make sure that everyone is clear that my position on the energy crisis, and it is a crisis, has been for the last 8 weeks and for a long, long time, a four-pronged approach that includes drilling and using our own resources in this country, that includes encouraging renewable and alternative energy technology and development.
Dan Maffei was lying to us. Sweetland did talk about alternatives as a solution. Come on, I'm going to be a Democrat like Dan Maffei. Look at Dan Maffei's vehicle. After his Bonneville hit a deer. Now he's driving the Infiniti. Look at it. Beautiful car. Look at it. Moonroof. It's got the electric windows, electric locks. It's got leather seats, and it's got a chrome door handle. It's an Infiniti Q30. Dan would never drive in a Geo Metro. It's below him. Dan can afford the Infiniti now that he's a congressman. Look at that chrome on the back. Oh, my God. Look at that. 20 miles per gallon. 17 barrels.
Oil-dependent, wasteful lifestyle.
Democrat Mike Arcuri.
One of the reasons why I'm joining Al Qaeda and bin Laden is because of Michael Arcuri.
Michael Arcuri was accusing Richard Hanna of hiding his oil holdings. In fact, I appreciate him investing in the oil industry.
That's got to be one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. I mean, see that? Yeah, read it. Is Michael Arcuri here? Michael Arcuri? There he is. There he is. Thank you. Thank you for coming, Mike. Thank you for answering my letter. I appreciate it.
Michael Arcuri never answered my letter about tax breaks for big oil.
I'm very glad to be here, and I appreciate chatting with you.
Because the Post-Standard never gave you information about this, so this chapter covers subsidies. Thank you very much. Show it.
For too long, big oil special interests have blocked any efforts to reduce our dependence on oil. I'm Mike Arcuri, and my priority is helping middle-class families, not big oil companies. So here's what I'm doing. First, I voted to eliminate tax breaks for big oil companies.
Yeah, Mr. Arcuri, what are those $14 billion in tax breaks? I called you and asked you. You never responded to me. But in order for me to be the best Democrat I can be, to be the best voter I can be, I want to know what those $14 billion in tax breaks and subsidies to big oil are all about. Because I know you try to make it sound as if the whole $14 billion goes to big oil. Well, I see here that $1 billion goes to conservation, $1 billion goes to coal, a little over $1 billion goes to electricity, a little over $1 billion goes to nuclear, then it goes to natural gas for $2 billion, refined coal $2.5 billion, end use like refrigerators $3 billion, and renewables $5 billion. So where's the $14 billion come from?
Well, Michael loves the environment. He's fighting against big oil. Now look. This is Michael's car right here. It's a 300 Chrysler. He gets 15 miles to a gallon, bin Laden. You love that. You love that. You love that. Michael Arcuri, you are an environmentalist.
Dan Maffei, Michael Arcuri, please help me with this. Or do I have to ask bin Laden to explain subsidies since my local newspaper won't do it? Thanks, Mike O'Connor. Great editor.
This is Mike Arcuri cutting his lawn. This is Mike Arcuri cutting his son's hair.
And this is Mike Arcuri in Washington, D.C., teaching his son how to blame everyone but himself.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The American people are looking to Washington for help in reducing prices at the pump. They don't really have a lot of interest in pointing fingers. They just want us to act in a bipartisan fashion to bring these record prices down. But of course, that hasn't stopped the oil company executives from pointing fingers. And of course, that's what they do. That's all they can do. Anything but let the American people see where the real fault is at the rising oil companies, with the rising oil companies.
The real fault is you. Look at that. 15 miles to a gallon. Come on, Mike, grow up. 19 barrels a year. Grow up.
Oil-dependent, wasteful lifestyle.
Democratic Congressman Patrick Kennedy.
That this gentleman would say that somehow we're being inconsistent. It's really my point that the gentleman is being inconsistent.
No, the truth is you're being inconsistent. You had the opportunity to purchase a car that gets 40 miles to a gallon, but you bought one that gets less than 20. Why? Why? You're a Democrat. You're supposed to care. You could have bought a car like this. Gets 40, 50 miles to a gallon, but you didn't. You didn't. What a hypocritical Democrat you are.
Oil-dependent, wasteful lifestyle.
And here's another wasteful lifestyle. This is Bob Beckel, Democratic strategist. He's out looking for a new vehicle. What kind of vehicle will he get? He writes, if people insist on gas guzzlers, then they contribute towards the problem. What kind of car will Bob buy, since he cares so much about the environment? There's Bob there, look at him. Hey Bob, what kind of car are you gonna get?
Well,
It's been 17 years since the Gulf War. Toyota. I'm a Democratic strategist. I'm a registered Democrat. I'm a liberal. I care for the environment more than the Republicans. I'm for clean air, for clean water, and the terrorist attacks, I'm against those. I'm against importing more oil. I'm for oil independence. Not sure which car I should really get. I think I'll go for the Jeep. Yeah, 50 miles a gallon, I can deal with that. People are going to think I'm real special. I guess Bob Beckel, that Democrat, is part of that wasteful lifestyle that Jim McDermott talks about. Listen.
Oil-dependent, wasteful lifestyle.
Discussed over a year ago.
Take it easy. I know you want to defend yourself, but don't over-defend it.
Charles Schumer says there are tax breaks for these little cars. Is that true?
Let's see a show of hands right now, the people that are in this room. How many of you drive something that gets more than 40 miles to the gallon? Raise your hand.
That's us. That's us. We're real Democrats.
The chair counts 4 people.
That's us, Geo Metro. Look at you.
Why didn't Charles Schumer buy a car like me?
We have different fatality rates. We have very different driving conditions in the U.S. and in Europe. Many of the small mini cars in Europe would not meet the full plethora of our safety standards. So every vehicle sold in the United States would have to, whether it's a small or a larger vehicle, would have to meet every one of our safety standards.
Yeah, that's not discriminating.
Why didn't Charles Schumer buy a car like me?
You know, tax deductions for cars is a good thing. We have them. It's just much too slow for what we need in terms of a crisis.
No, you don't. No, you do not have tax breaks for small cars or mini cars. I sent you a letter before 9/11 telling you to invest and look at tax breaks for small cars. But no, you spent more time bitching about the Saudis and how they're ripping us off instead of restraining your own wife and stopping her from buying a Ford Explorer that gets, well, geez, what does that Explorer get for gas mileage? And Mrs. Schumer, she's driving around in the Explorer now. Oh, yeah, she didn't want to drive around in that Geo Metro. That was available, but she chose the Explorer. Look at that, 23 barrels a year. And Mr. Schumer, he's driving the Taurus around in the Taurus. Look at the gas mileage. Look at that. He could have done better. Mr. Schumer could have did better with the Geo, huh, everybody? He sure could have. Look at that, 17 barrels a year. He could have did better. Could have did better. Charlie, you should have did better. And then here, you see, another issue, rollovers and SUVs, okay? Don't talk to me about my small car or my mini car. Come on, Mr. Schumer. Let's have some tax breaks for small mini cars. Thank you.
Oil-dependent, wasteful lifestyle. Oil-dependent, wasteful lifestyle.
Lifestyle, the lifestyle of the rich and famous. When I see Mr. Shaw in Skinny Atlas, I said to him, how's the Lexus? I go, why didn't they buy you a small, fuel-efficient car? And his wife went, we get 20 miles to a gallon. It's not that bad. Yeah, look at that, $40,000, and they couldn't buy him something like more fuel-efficient than 18 miles to a gallon. What type of signal does that send to the people in Skinny Atlas? Oh, there he goes, almost 20 barrels a year. They could have got him the old Geo.
Why didn't they buy a car like me? Look at the gas mileage that I get, and I'm very inexpensive to operate. Coming from the university, they should have known. Look at that.
We use double the oil per person.
The per capita average in Africa, India, China, Japan, EU, Russia, there's where we are. Way, way above everyone else.
Thanks to Syracuse University. MTV, man, I'm ready for MTV.
The young people of America are especially interested in how they can serve.
They really are. The young kids really care. Those Democrats are doing a great job raising their children.
channel remains extremely popular with its target audience, 12 to 34-year-olds. Last week, MTV announced a new initiative, Break the Addiction, to encourage young people to fight global warming. The person responsible for MTV is Christina Norman.
Oh, that's crazy. I don't even have 6 doors to my house. My dad would sell me for that car. So pretty.
The president of MTV. Let's welcome Christina Norman to the National Press Club.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for that great introduction.
This ain't just pocket change.
MTV's newest pro-social campaign is Break the Addiction, a response to the president's State of the Union address warning about our country's addiction to oil and an increasing national debate on global warming.
I really like this part. It's shiny and clean.
The spirit of rebellion is part of our rock and roll DNA.
Put your fingerprints all over, right?
Well, it's gonna be my car soon, you know.
And we're going to empower them by giving them simple, fun actions they can take to help the environment and, in the course, save themselves some money.
This particular one is $76,000. So roughly 100 grand.
Like high gas prices, Katrina and the Iraq War, and its impact on health issues like asthma and obesity, which are particularly alarming in the African American community.
I really like it.
If you don't buy his car, I'm going to buy it. Straight up.
Scratch below the surface and you're going to find a generation that's inspired to make a difference.
My dream car is a Hummer H3. We want a Hummer. I want that one right there.
And it's led to remarkable results.
Oh my gosh, I'm in love with this car.
They're the innovators who won't settle for the status quo and challenge everything.
I have to have this car for my birthday.
I'm going to show you how we get inside of their heads, to the point that sometimes we understand them better than they understand themselves. And the prospect of environmental meltdown. At MTV, we've been pulling out the latent activists inside of our audience since we blasted onto the scene 25 years ago. We're going to engage them through a 12-step program to help break their addiction and what activism means for them right now, to educate, empower, and engage them. That's the true spirit of rebellion that's at the heart of rock and roll. That's the real permanent youth revolution. So I leave you today with these words, written by a poet and passed down in a time-honored tradition. Rock on.
Because we're all so stupid.
They single out MTV as one of the channels they don't want to their homes because they say the channel glorifies
fuel-inefficient vehicles.
What is your reaction to this?
I think it's unfortunate that there are people who have based an opinion on MTV despite having never really watched MTV. I'm here to talk about MTV's role, and we believe that our role is to educate and inspire a generation. I think that that's been, again, the spirit of youth, the spirit of music, and it's something that we definitely take seriously.
Are we allowed to question your job?
Rock on.
But what if you achieve the wrong things?
Death to America. Death to America.
And also exploring the murderous hate that drove the terrorist attackers.
Oil companies need to be held responsible for the consequences of our addiction to their product.
Rock on.
The young people of America are especially interested in how they can serve.
We need a national campaign of public awareness to show consumers that when they properly inflate their tires, I'm for giving away gas gauges at the stations and to make sure that there's an education program that's in place. You can start helping consumers today.
And I'm going to help you today. This is educational, not from the federal government, though. You see this two-tone Subaru? It's owned by a professor of the university, and he drives the big V6, the two-tone Subaru with leather seats. And this professor is driving a two-tone Subaru also, with the plastic stripes on it. So when he gets in an accident, you have to order the stripes, which come in boxes shipped by diesel trucks. You see where I'm going? And he teaches economics at the university. So I know people can't afford their health care, but they can afford two-tone automobiles. Now, here's what we're talking about: inefficiency in automobile design. Here, to fix this car, you need twice the paint. You need one color for the gray and the other color, blue, for the blue. So when you get in an accident, you have to buy twice the cans, shipped by diesel truck, mind you, and it just costs more. Here's a Ford Focus SC. Then when you paint the car, you got to buy all new emblems because you can't glue them back on. Okay? Here's a one-way, you got to get new plastic because you're going to break them taking them off. Well, where do you get them? I'll go down to the Ford dealer and waste their time. I'm sure the parts guy wants to deal with me. You know what I'm saying? So they run the wire harness. You can't just have a, clip to unplug the thing. It runs all the way up here, and it's very sophisticated, Jesus. And look at this, Jesus. They can't afford their health care insurance, but they run a cable all the way to the device. It's a cable, Daddy. And then you got this starter light, thanks to Ralph Nader. What a waste. Look at it. Oh, look at that. It's plastic. That button's plastic. You got to drill it. Then you got to fit it in there. Then when you get in an accident, you got to fix it. And then people bitch, well, the car's too expensive. It's too expensive, Daddy. Look at the quality. It sucks here. Yeah, Ford. Chevy does the same thing right here. Two-tone truck. Why would you do a two-tone truck with stripes on it that are shipped in cardboard boxes? Okay, yeah, and there's a big chunk of aluminum put on the back of a truck. It's a truck. It's a truck. Two-tone truck. Get real. Grow up. And then when you buy a car, don't have pearl in its paint. Okay, then you have to paint the whole side. What a waste. And then when you buy a car, don't buy a car with so many pieces of plastic on the front. Now, when you get in an accident, they're all shipped in cardboard boxes. Look at all the pieces to this one car. You don't need all these pieces. 3 grills. Come on, don't tell me my jet ski's ruining the world. Let me show you what you need. A simple car. Democrats need a simple car like this. 1 piece of plastic. That's it. No grill. When you get in an accident, it's cheap to fix. The Democrats at the New York Times discriminate against small cars, yet they bitch about big oil and pollution. Watch this. Here's my story. In the New York Times last year, there was a gentleman who designed a small fuel-efficient car in India. Well, see, the New York Times did an editorial about this gentleman, and they more or less put him down, mocked him out, said that he should use his talents elsewhere, that he didn't build the perfect car, because it's still polluted a little bit. And then, of course, the New York Times did another little story mocking out the smart car, and they called people who drive them clowns and stupid, and really, why would you do this? But yet, the New York Times, they know where they get their money from. Now look at this, the New York Times. What do they advertise? Oh yes, they accuse Mr. Tata there of not building affordable cars, and that's one of his down points. But look, luxury cars. Remember Bob Beckel? His Jeep. There it is. There it is. Yep. There's the old Infiniti, the Q56, and there's the BMW. There it is. There's the Porsche. Let's see how affordable they are. Oh, look at the horsepower. Daddy, look at the horsepower. Yep, there's the Cadillac. They got the Cadillac advertised in the New York Times. And, of course, there's the Navigator that Terry McAuliffe drives. Yeah, and there's the Hummer. Come on, and the SUV and, MTV. Here's the funny part. It's difficult to get an editor at the New York Times to understand something when his salary depends upon not understanding it.
We will get 1,150 mile per gallon plug-in hybrids on our roads, made in America, within 6 years' time. We can do that.
What's he talking about? What's he talking about? I didn't see any of those cars on his website.
We can do that.
Diesel, did you see those cars on his website?
We'll give consumers a $7,000 tax credit to buy these
You gotta
vehicles.
be kidding me. $7,000? Why not give a $1,000 tax break for people who buy subcompacts and mini cars? Wouldn't that help the poor and the lower middle class?
We're going to increase fuel mileage standards, 4% every year. We can do that.
4%? Come on. Anyone who knows anything about cars, that's impossible. You can't do that. What's he think I'm a fool?
We can
What's wrong
do
with
that.
him? What's wrong with him? It's impossible.
By 2022, I will make it a goal to have 6 billion gallons of our fuel come from sustainable, affordable biofuels.
Let me read that again. Last year's energy bill required that 36 billion gallons of biofuels be produced annually by 2022.
Mr. Obama, 6 billion isn't a lot, but it's something. But I think you should still get together with the oil men if you want to save this country.
I focused on putting resources into solar, wind, biodiesel, geothermal. These have been priorities of mine since I got to the Senate. None of these steps will come close to seriously reducing our energy dependence in the long term.
This president, in every State of the Union address, has talked about becoming more energy independent. But we have become more energy dependent practically every year.
Yeah, that's because the Democrats won't let other Democrats drill.
Now it's 70%. When I think this president started, it was less than 60.
No, it's 60%. When he took office, it was 56.
We've had 2 oil men in the White House.
Blame it on the oil men.
The oil reserves in the world, we consume 25% of the oil. We have to stop consuming so much.
You're right, Al. Democrats have to stop consuming so much. Remember when Clinton took office, we were importing 40% of our oil, and then when Clinton left office, it was up to 56%. Yet you're complaining about Bush going from 56% to 60%? Wake up! Wake up! And then our consumption of Persian oil has gone down under Bush. It went up quite a bit under Clinton. And remember, when Clinton took office, we were using 17 million barrels a day. When he left, it was 21 million barrels a day. And when Bush took office, it was 21 million, and he got it down to 19 and a half. What's going on in America? Maybe this lower class neighborhood knows. Look, Daddy, there's another one. There's another one.
Or you have cars you can't afford to drive.
There's another one. When I get older, I want an SUV, Daddy. I'm addicted to the SUV, and I'm a Democrat, and I'm loving it.
Truly addicted to oil and gas.
Our addiction to oil.
Our addiction to oil. Our addiction to oil.
Further addicted to that product.
Break their addiction.
Addicted to dead dinosaurs.
Breaking our oil addiction.
Our addiction to their product.
Our country's addiction to oil.
And we'll create 5 million new jobs in the process.
What kind of jobs are we talking about?
When we talk about wind turbines and the wind industry, someone must design that turbine. That's a job. Someone must build that turbine. That's a job. Someone has to install that turbine. That's a job. And somebody's got to maintain it. Those are jobs for America.
The Apollo project is obviously a project that's visionary.
Yes, thank you. I support alternative energy 100%. But we also need an Apollo program for oil. Who are we fooling? We need 2,000 oil rigs. Designing these oil rigs, that's a job. Building these oil rigs, that's a job. Maintaining these oil rigs with electricians, plumbers, welders, grinders, painters, plumbers, maintenance people, those are jobs. Those are good American jobs that cannot be exported. And these jobs, the Democrats do not talk about. And that makes me angry to the point where I want to join Al-Qaeda. Thank you.
You can watch other countries create industries and the jobs that will fuel our future.
Yeah, Obama, thanks to you, we will be exporting more American jobs. Thanks a lot. Good job.
Ed Markey of Massachusetts is the chairman.
So on April Fool's Day, the biggest joke of all is being played on American families by Big Oil while using every trick in the book. Second, your companies and the Bush administration must support, not oppose, legislation. That will unleash the renewable revolution we need in order to become energy independent and cut global warming emissions. The American people deserve answers, and it is time for Big Oil to go on record.
I spoke with a woman about a week ago who earns $18,000 a year and can't afford to fill up her tank to get to work. I came here prepared to hear everyone say it's not our fault.
What kind of car does she drive?
I think it is the fault of people in this room.
The suggestions that I don't want to hear are that we're going to keep drilling where we already know folks in our district, particularly California, do not want to allow for more drilling along our coast and opening up old refineries like in the city of Whittier. The price of a gallon of gasoline in my district, East Los Angeles, San Gabriel Valley, working class blue collar, is upwards of $3.69 a gallon. For diesel, it's over $4.
Now, I strongly believe one solution to this oil addiction is an increased use of domestically produced biofuels, such as ethanol, which have the potential to meet a significant portion of our nation's energy needs over the coming decades.
The world's economy runs on energy. Americans depend on it every day to fuel their cars, heat their homes, and power their businesses. Because energy is so important, all of us have a responsibility to engage in an open, honest, informed debate about our energy future that is grounded in reality and intent on finding viable solutions.
We need all forms of energy, plus conservation and energy efficiency. First, the oil and gas development can occur in an environmentally responsible way. Our joint venture, Motiva, is spending around $7 billion to double the capacity of its refinery at Port Arthur, Texas. When finished, it will be one of the largest refineries in the U.S. and the world.
I'm Vice Chairman of Chevron Corporation, and I'm here today proudly representing 59,000 Chevron employees, 27,000 of whom work here in the United States. 4 years ago, we sent a letter to members of Congress, the administration, cabinet members, as well as trade associations and think tanks. It foreshadowed the issues we face today and included concrete ideas for action. The letter said we face a new reality: volatility, high prices, greater competition for resources, and heightened geopolitical risks. Today, this new reality is here. There are a billion people who enjoy our standard of living, and there are billions more striving for the same.
Sorry to say, I'm very sorry to say, I'm very sorry to say, but I don't like you. I'm very sorry to say, I don't like you. I'm very sorry, I'm very sorry, I'm very sorry to say, I don't like you anymore.
We're not going to be energy independent in 10 years. That's not realistic.
You're damn right we're not.
There are a billion people who enjoy our standard of living, and there are billions more striving for the same. And the declining value of the dollar has only worsened the situation. The situation is not sustainable, and it's time to take urgent action.
In the very same oil companies that have blocked our progress for so long.
So what are we doing? Chevron produces almost 1 billion barrels of oil equivalent a year. And as large as that number sounds, it serves less than 3% of world demand. And in the U.S., our refineries produce 6 billion gallons of gasoline each year, another large number. But that's less than 5% of America's gasoline consumption. 2002 and 2007, Chevron invested approximately $73 billion in new energy supplies, more than we earned. This year, we'll spend another $23 billion, including $2.3 billion in U.S. refining and marketing activities. We've added 1 million gallons a day in gasoline capacity over the last 2 years. Let's talk about renewable energy. Today, Chevron is the world's largest producer of geothermal energy. Between 2007 and 2009, we plan to spend $2.5 billion on renewables and energy efficiency services. We formed a range of partnerships to pursue next-generation biofuels. Let me give you one example. We teamed up with Weyerhaeuser Corporation because we need partners. They know plants, we know fuels. Together, we provide the unique combination necessary to meet this challenge. But it will take time to have a meaningful impact. A large biofuels plant in the U.S. produces in a year what one of our refineries produces in a single week. The enormous scale of the energy system means that we must continue to bring traditional energy supplies to market. We can't expect other countries to expand their resource development to meet our needs as we limit our development without good reason. Thank you very much.
90% of the Democrats in this Congress have voted against supply, vote after vote after vote for the last 15 years.
I'm going to give you $10 if you got those boots on.
I do no longer have this problem because I can really know your power.
Women around this country are having to make a decision between a gallon of gas or a gallon of milk. This is unacceptable.
When you continue to drive the SUV. Is that right?
That's correct. I didn't need to drive the SUV, that's what I'm saying. I didn't need to drive it.
But you did.
What they're seeing every day now.
Know your power.
Ethan Manuel. He is the director of the Lands Protection Program for the Sierra Club. Please begin.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ranking Minority Member, members of the committee. Good morning. My name is Ethan Manuel, and I direct the Lands Program for the Sierra Club, and I'm here representing over 750,000 Sierra Club members who belong to more than 65 chapters and 45 groups around the country, and that makes us the largest grassroots environmental organization in the country.
the Sierra Club website. Let me read it for you. The biggest single step that the United States can take in order to curb global warming and to save oil is to require automakers to produce cleaner, more efficient cars. Then can you tell me why, when I went to a Sierra Club meeting in Syracuse, I didn't see one goddamn small car? I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand that.
And this car is owned by my congressman. He could have bought a smaller car 6 years ago instead of that plastic spoiler which has no value. Oh look, Al Gore's here. Remember Al Gore in Inconvenient Truth? This is the Cadillac he was driving around. Could have drove a Geo Metro 40 miles to a gallon. Not good enough for those Democrats. When I was at the Sierra Club, one lady said, "Oh, the little cars are too hard to drive in the winter." I don't have any problems. The other lady said she couldn't get her groceries in the little car. I have no problem. But ask yourself this, why don't liberal Democrats drive a car like that if they cared about global warming?
That it calls for more drilling when drilling is really the problem. And all we've got to show for pretty aggressive drilling for the last 35 years is, again, $4 for a gallon of gas. If we are truly addicted to oil and gas, which President Bush said in a recent State of the Union address, we clearly think the answer is not to seek a bigger fix by drilling in special places like the Arctic Refuge or off of our coasts and off of our beaches. We just simply, again, don't have that much oil and gas left in the United States. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chairman, and for the invitation.
One of the things you said that really disturbed me, that I think was less than truthful, is that we don't have any gas and oil here to explore here in the United States. You said that. And I can tell you right now, I got a thing here, and I'll give it to you, but we've got, just in the offshore, in Pacific offshore, we got 10 billion barrels of oil we could get here in our own backyard.
We also got 18 trillion cubic feet of gas. That's in the Pacific. Offshore Alaska, we got 27 billion barrels of oil that we could get, and 132 trillion cubic feet of gas. On the Atlantic offshore, we got 4 billion barrels of oil and 37 trillion cubic feet of gas. Offshore Gulf, we've got deep water, 45 billion barrels of oil, 233 trillion cubic feet of gas. And the lower 48, inaccessible, and these are inaccessible. Government says it's against the law to do. We have 20 billion barrels of oil in the lower 48 onshore and 162 trillion cubic feet of gas.
And what I'm saying is, until we develop the technologies that we can do other things, why do you think it's so wrong to get some in our own backyard? You think you prefer that we go to the Mideast to get it, or outside this country? Why is it so wrong to get it here while we are developing those technologies? Do you see anything wrong with going in these areas that I mentioned?
Well, I do. I don't think we should open up any new areas for new offshore drilling. So you don't think it's a good idea to get more at home in our own backyard? We don't think it'll make any difference on the price of a gallon of gas. To address our energy issue, you don't think this is part of the puzzle? To address that, as we develop the technologies where we can move to other types of energy, you don't think that we should do that? Well, we acknowledge that it's going to take us a while to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels, but there's plenty of areas that are opened right now.
Thank you, Mr. Manuel, very much. And our final witness is Karen Hobart, the Vice President and Managing Director of the Institute for 21st Century Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the ranking members and members of the committee. We don't have enough energy professionals, we don't have enough equipment, and NIMBY is a thing of the past. We are now on to banana. Build absolutely nothing anywhere near anything, and even nope, not on planet Earth. Not on planet Earth. That is an unsustainable path to sustain our economic competitiveness if we want to do that. Our Mineral Management Service estimates we have 139 billion barrels of undiscovered oil here in the United States. 80% of the Outer Continental Shelf is off limits. That part alone, if we would just use that part of the oil, we would have actually a 35-year supply for gasoline for our cars. We would have heating oil for the millions of homes for the next 100 of years. We are depriving the American consumer of choice and opportunity. We need it all. We must allow for increased domestic oil and gas supplies. We have to recognize the role of nuclear power, an emissions-free source of power. We need clean coal. We need to use the 250 years of coal we have here. We have to emphasize energy efficiency and renewables. We have to update our aging energy infrastructure. We have to be better environmental stewards, and we have to deploy those clean technologies that will improve our trade imbalances and accelerate American competitiveness. We need less rhetoric. We need more facts. There's no single solution, no single fuel. We must embrace all sources.
This is about an oil company agenda that has run wild for 8 years.
So we'd be 7 years into that right now. Right. But this should have been done 30 years ago, but especially 7 years ago. Imagine 7 years ago if we had had a national and worldwide commitment.
If the last 8 years had been used more aggressively to build a clean energy future that our country desperately needs.
No one loves their car more than a Mercedes-Benz owner. And now's the best time to get special offers on select models at the Mercedes-Benz Summer Love event. But hurry, this event ends soon. Take advantage now before your chance at true...
Welcome back to the Democratic National Debate. One last question.
Of the presidential election season, sponsored by the Democratic National Committee. Sanctioned, I should say, by the Democratic National Committee.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here on YouTube. My name is Geo Metro, and you Democrats don't know me, but imagine 7 years ago if we would have aggressively advertised the Geo Metro that got 40 miles to a gallon instead of the Mercedes-Benz that gets 17 miles per gallon. Who thought of that anyways? Why couldn't we advertise small fuel-efficient cars during the Democratic National Debate? Anyways, we would have less air pollution, and we would be importing 1 to 2 million barrels per day less. Oh, thank you. Thank you for standing up for me. I really appreciate it. But whose idea was it to sell the Mercedes and not a fuel-efficient car? Thank you.
Is that a real question? Who the hell does that Democrat think he is? Questioning us.
Well, he does have a good point, and I think we should listen to him more. Maybe he does know what he's talking about.
But hurry, this event ends soon. Take advantage now before your chance at true love.
Imagine Democrats driving smaller cars. I wrote a letter to Hillary Clinton. She never wrote me back.
I'm here tonight as a proud Democrat.
We consume 25% of the oil. We have to stop consuming so much.
No, Al Franken, you Democrats must stop consuming and lying so much. Look at all these people that came to see Hillary Clinton and Dan Maffei at their fundraiser. Look at the plastic cladding on that SUV. Plastic, made out of petroleum. Look at it, 18 miles and 19 barrels a year. They could have did better. Look at that. Look at the air pollution score. It's 2 out of 10. It's a Democrat driving it. Hypocrite. Here's another Democrat, 2-tone SUV, which costs more to repair when you get in an accident. Look at that, 19 barrels a year wasted. And here comes a man in his SUV because he's too manly as a Democrat to drive a smaller car like a Geo. He's a man. He's not going to drive a Geo. He's a Democrat. Look at that. And here comes 3 men in their Audi. They could have came in a Geo Metro also, but they're Democrats, and they chose to drive a car that gets 20 miles per gallon instead of a Geo that got 48. And here's another lady that made the same decision as a Democrat. I'm going to drive a car that gets 22 miles per gallon when I could have drove a car that got 45 or 48 miles per gallon. And here's another lady with her big SUV with the plastic flares and the big chrome bumper, big transmission, big exhaust. Look at that, 23 barrels a year. I hope her children enjoyed breathing that. And yet, and here's the lady driving the Durango that gets 15 miles per gallon. Good choice. Good purchase. What a Democrat. And Hillary Clinton, 17 years after the Gulf War, after 9/11, after Kyoto, after bin Laden's fatwa, what does Hillary Clinton drive?
Well, when I'm president, we're going to get serious about energy independence and global climate change.
Listen to all the Democrats clap. What a bunch of hypocrites. You'd think Democrats would be driving smaller cars after all these years. Look at that, 15 miles to a gallon, 23 barrels a year. Why didn't you come in on a Geo Metro and make a statement, okay? Make a statement. She's a Democrat. And this is the truth about the Democrats. Here's another truth right here, right? Al Franken, huh? You always wrote those books about the truth. Well, here's the truth about you Democrats.
Oil-dependent, wasteful lifestyle.
just again exposes the kind of pathetic intelligence that's rife out there, where one rule is for one and another rule is for another.
The solution to America's energy problems are going to come out of somebody's garage. Well, maybe that will happen. It's happened.
very sorry to say. I'm very sorry to say. I'm very sorry to say, but I don't like you. I'm very sorry to say, I'm very sorry to say, I don't like you. I'm very sorry, I'm very sorry, I'm very sorry to say, I don't like you anymore.
Hello? Yes, this is Gasoline Joe. President Obama, thank you. Thank you for calling me. None of the other Democrats would call me, but thank you. You saw the movie. You liked it. Yes, Democrats are hypocrites, but let me tell you what we should do. We should increase oil production, 2 million barrels in 10 years, and we should make mini cars legal in this country, and we should give tax breaks for people that buy those small mini cars. Yes. Oh, you want me to be energy secretary? I'd love to be energy secretary. You want us to come to Washington and straighten things out? We're leaving tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Obama. Thank you for calling me. Thank you. I haven't quit the Democratic Party yet. Maybe there's still hope.
I'm looking for a liberal, looking for a liberal, looking for a liberal who feels sorry for me. Looking for a liberal, looking for a liberal, looking for a liberal who feels sorry for me.
Feel sorry for me?
No, for me.
Feel sorry for me?
No, feel sorry for me. No, alright, you.
Thank you.
Take me higher.
Scam Man Production.